Hello and welcome to In the Game. In the Game is Qatar's first sports podcast. Today we have a special guest. We have Liz McColgan. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
Oh my God, I used to watch you so many times as when I was younger. You are an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
You are. And to so many back in the UK.
Yeah, I had a great career back in the UK, and I think that when I came along in running, there wasn't an awful lot of female runners, and I came along at the right time because athletics really sort of grew during those years as well through the time that I ran. So there was a lot of television coverage, and and I did win a lot of big races and things like that. So it was an exciting time for me back then when I was a runner.
I haven't even introduced you. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you are and what you used to do.
Okay, so I'm Liz McColgan, Olympic silver medalist, world champion, winner of London, New York and Tokyo marathons. I was world record holder for the half marathon, 10K, 5K indoors. I got a silver and a bronze medal at the World Cross Country, and I was also world champion for the half marathon.
It was an incredible career. And when I say that you were an inspiration, you were just that to so many ladies in sport.
Yeah, at the time I didn't really realise, when you're in your little bubble of training and you're enjoying your sport and loving what you do. And for me, I was very much an athlete that was focused on how good I could be. So, I came from a really bad background. I was a council house estate kid, and nobody would ever have believed that I would have came from an 11-year-old that was from the council estates into doing what I did on a worldwide scale. And I think it was, a good opportunity for others to see just what you can achieve through hard work. I wasn't the most talented, I'll admit that, but I was really stubborn as a child, and my work ethos was a lot higher than most. So, I got there in the end through hard work and dedication.
But if we can go back to that time, what did your parents think about you wanting to become a runner? Did you always want to become a runner?
No, I was one of 4 children. I was from a very working class background, so my mum and dad were never there. They were either, they were unemployed, and so they were into like a social scene of like gambling and alcohol. So I didn't really see my parents very often. I was the youngest of 4. So I was left to my own devices, and it was just pure chance being at school. I had a PE teacher who was like a marathon runner, and so he always made us go out on cross-country races, and I used to win them, and I would never stop. I was probably one of the only children that when they went on the cross-country runs, I would just do the whole sort of 2.5 miles without stopping, with no practice. And so he obviously saw something in me, and he advised me to go along to his friend who was a coach at the Dundee Hawkhill running club, but I couldn't afford the fees. So the coach guy called Harry Bennett let me join for free. So I was then able to, that was sort of kickstart of my career. So 11-year-old, I joined a running club, and Harry Bennett, who was an amazing guy, put me under his wing, and he just developed me as an athlete. I wasn't the best, but I was this type of child that just never gave up. If I got beat, I'd try and find a way to win it the next time and be better. And, I was fortunate that Harry saw that in me. And by the age from 11 to 16, I ended up being like 3rd in Britain for the 800 metres. And I then got recruited to the States to go on scholarship. I left school, I was working in a jute mill. There wasn't much prospects because Dundee, the place that I live, is a very working class town, and I was working in a jute mill. So when I got the offer to go to America on scholarship, I couldn't afford the flight, so Harry paid for my flight to go. And if it hadn't been for that one person, I would never be the person I am today. And he opened up opportunities that I could never even dream of. Because when I was 11-year-old, I didn't have a television, so I didn't have any role models. I didn't even know what athletics was. All I knew that was when I ran, I felt great, and it kind of gave me an escapism from the life that I was in. And it gave me a freedom that I could get. And I was the type of kid that used to really push themselves, and I got a real buzz from running hard and pushing myself and seeing what I could do. So athletics just fitted my persona. I was just lucky that I came across it.
And these guys that you just spoke about there, how important are these people in our lives?
Really important, because Harry Bennett, you know, I always say that it only takes one person to say something positive about someone that plants a seed, and that seed can grow to whatever you want it to be. And for me, Harry, like all through my childhood, when I was at school, I always got told that I was useless from the teachers. They always said, because I was from the wrong side of town, they never had the time of day to give me any encouragement. And so I never really got into my education, because I just used to sit at the back because nobody was interested. But when I met Harry, Harry was saying to me, "You're special. You know, there's something about you. You're going to be a great runner." And he just opened doors and allowed me to dream in a way that I hadn't been allowed before. And it gave me inspiration and motivation. And the only unfortunate thing for me was, through Harry, I started developing my ethos on running and what coaching's about. And he used to throw books to me, you know, like, learn what we're doing, you know. And he used to ask me, "Why am I getting you to run this? Why are we doing this session?" And I'd only be 12, 13, 14 at the time. So he was educating me in running all along so that I knew what I was doing. And unfortunately for me, when I did go to the States and I came back, and it was my first British championship that I won for the 10,000 metres. I was meeting Harry to go to a race, and unfortunately he died. He was out running and had a massive heart attack and died on the street when I was 18. So he never got to see my career, but he's always been that person that's been at the back of me. He's always been the person, even now when I ask questions, he's always the voice that I have in my head. And he made such an inspiration, and it's amazing that one person can do that. And there's so many walks of life, you know. You could be an artist, you could be, you know, in the media, you can be educational. There's always one person. I always feel that in your story makes a difference, and for me, Harry Bennett was that person.
Let me go, because I'm exactly the same, and people, so I don't know whether they believe me or not, but I look back to my time, and I've done nowhere near as much as you, but I've had a great life. And I put it back to the people that can say that one few words to you that can change your life forever. So you said that, okay? And could you just repeat what you achieved in your career again?
So I was Olympic silver medalist, world champion, winner of London, New York and Tokyo marathons, world record holder for the half marathon, 10K, 5K, 5K indoors, world cross country silver and bronze, double Commonwealth Games gold medalist, Commonwealth bronze medalist at the Commonwealth Games, and world champion for the half marathon.
And that was just through words that started this journey. And I say this every single time. You've got the power to be able to make those changes for somebody that's been an absolute icon when it comes to running in the UK, and inspired so many individuals just by the kindness in the words. And that can just lead to so many different places. I still, listening to that, I get the goosebumps.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes it's that easy.
Yeah.
But we underestimate it.
It's not easy, because even though, you know, you have that one person that gives you confidence and allows you to become the person that you're destined to be, it's not an easy path, because you're always sort of, there's always doors that get slammed in your face all the way along. I mean, I've had a lot of issues, you know, as an athlete, but because of the mindset that I've got, you know, I've got a never give up mentality, and I know where I want to go in life. And, you know, if you know where you want to go in life and you do everything to perceive what enables you to do that in the right way, not the wrong way, you do eventually get there. And I think that, you know, it was a mountain for me to climb. And all along the way, you know, there was little step backs, but I was fortunate enough to be the type of person that could take a knock on the chin, get up and fight it again. And that's just the background that I've got. And I think it does come a lot from my background and my upbringing.
And in saying all of those things that you've said there, if you look back, did you ever believe at that stage when you first started off that you would get to the stage, have the career that you did?
No, I never believed that. I never dreamt that I wanted to be an Olympian, because it was so far out of my reach from an 11-year-old kid that, you know, was just starting running. But success brings confidence, and your goal set changes when the confidence comes. So as I grew into what I could become, I then believed that I could become the best in the world. And it took a long, long time to believe that. It didn't happen overnight. But the thing that got me engaged in athletics was I wanted to be better than I was the day before or the race before. And I got those improvements. And when I started like delving in and investing in what I had to do in my training, I mean, I trained harder than probably everybody else in the world. I was always told I was an overachiever in my training. I pushed too hard. But if I didn't push that hard, I would never have been world champion or world record holder, because to be the best, you've got to be better than the best, and you've got to think outside that box, and you've got to believe in what you do is right for you, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says, because when you start initiating success, people try to eat away at it, and they try to knock you down, and they try to take little parts of you, but success comes within, and it's what you believe, and you've got to stay on that path. And for me, it took about 20 years to do that, but I did achieve it in the end.
It's funny you should say that. I still don't understand to this day why people have to have a knock, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just embracing and helping that person along,
yeah,
and be good to help that person along. I think that's just sometimes and those little words, again, we're talking about words, those little words can have a really big effect on somebody.
Massively. When I won the Commonwealth Games, I was the only gold medalist in Scotland, and a company came to me and said that I had to go and get elocution lessons because nobody would be able to understand that I was Scottish, and I need to speak more clearly. And I was like, I'm Scottish. I'm proud to be Scottish. If people don't understand me, then that's their problem, because I'm not going to change who I am. And that was very, very early on in my career. People keep trying to change what that success is, but what you've got to do is embrace yourself and be proud of who you are. And as long as you keep that work ethic, you'll get there in the end anyway.
You talk about it's part of your life where the cross country in the school. Oh my God, you bring back memories. Yeah. It's like, I hate it. I really did hate them. I wasn't a very good runner, for sure. I was in the forces, but I was never a good runner. So these things that you went at, and it was normally cold, dreary, misty, and you'd be going out running over. Oh my word, I couldn't think of anything worse. But this was your beginning.
Yeah, but you've got to believe why running for me as a youngster was so good, because I lived in a household that didn't have any electricity. There was barely enough food to feed people. And for me, when I got out and ran, I was just in a different world. I was in the countryside. I was enjoying being in my own environment. I could be who I want. I could push as hard as I want. I was in control of what I was doing that day. And so when you're in an environment where you're not in control, the running just embraced me so much. And because I got so much from my running, I wanted to do more and more and more of it. And that's how I got better.
As a world champion, as an Olympian, everything must have been done for you, right?
No. No.
How was it like to grow into those shoes? How was it like? Because it couldn't have been easy, right?
It was really difficult because, as I said, I've explained what my background is, and because I was a different child at 12 and 13 and not doing what the other children were doing, which wasn't a really good environment. I ended up getting alienated and bullied. I used to have gangs of girls trying to come to training to beat me up, and I would have to run, extra long miles and I used to have to go and meet Harry to make sure that I could safely go into the park to train and safely get home. And, there was a lot of issues back then because people couldn't understand why I was so different. I'd go for a run and there'd be a group of boys all trying to stop me going out the sort of flats where I lived and saying, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And that's just, people your own age just bullying you and threatening you. So it was really, really difficult to maintain what I was trying to do. And then when I started getting my name in the papers, that even made it worse. Because people then thought, who does she think she is? Does she think she's better than us? And it wasn't my fault because I was winning races. So the results would be headline news, oh, Liz McColgan's won another race. So, it was really, really difficult being a youngster to keep focused and to keep doing what you were doing. So my saving grace was when I went to the States. When I went to the States, I had 4 years where I suddenly realised that education was fun and it was important and that I was smart. I could do education, I could get my degree. I enjoyed poetry. I enjoyed writing poetry for the first time in my life. And, you know, it was a whole different environment. But when I went to the States, although the education was really important, they also gave me time to actually train. So you had certain time slots to go training and your education was supported. And then I also got clothing. You know, they provided me with clothing, with shoes. You know, I couldn't afford shoes. I used to work in a chip shop on a Friday and a Saturday from 4 o'clock to 1 o'clock when I was 12 and 13 years of age, just to try to afford to get the bus fare to go to races and to get shoes to wear. So, you know, it was very, very difficult, but it doesn't stop you. You find a way, and you might not be running in the best gear, but you just do what you can. So the saving grace for me was when I went to America. And when I came back 4 years later, I was a totally different athlete. You know, I came back, I won my first British championships at the 10,000 metres. When I ran that 10,000 metres, it was the first ever 10,000 metres in a championship. And the rule was, if you get lapped, everyone has to stop. And when I came back, nobody knew what I was doing. And when I came back and ran that race, I lapped every female in the race. So I was like the only finisher to finish. And then the same year I went on and I won the first Commonwealth Games title. And that was when people then sat up. And then when I won that, I couldn't understand it, because when I went home right after the race, there was all this media standing at my gate. And I was like, where has this come from? Because I've never had that in my life. And then I was getting thrust with a camera in my face and I didn't know what to say. You know, I wasn't used to it. And so people then thought I was being standoffish, but I wasn't. I was an 18-year-old girl who didn't know what to say. I hadn't had any training in media. You know, I'd just come from the States, won the Commonwealth Games, and they're expecting me to be this like media persona. And I wasn't. I was just a really, really shy 18-year-old that didn't know what to do. So, you know, it was difficult. And I had to learn all that myself. I didn't get training in it. Not like today when you're an athlete, you go and get media training. You get told how to present yourself. I didn't get any of that, you know. And so it was really, really difficult. But, you know, I waded my way through it. And, you know, and I got used to it. And I accepted that, you know, that's an important part of your career. And I self-taught myself. So, you know, yeah, so there's a lot of things that were thrown at me that I wasn't ready for. It's just a silly rule, wasn't it? They just didn't realise that, you know, that a woman could run that fast. So, you know, I remember there was a twin called Angela Tooby, who and her sister Susan were running, and Angela was on a Commonwealth Games qualifying for Wales, and she was fighting with the officials to let her finish the race because she was still running fast. Although I lapped her, she was still doing a qualifying time for the Commonwealth Games, so she was sidestepping them every lap. But I think she did finish and got the Commonwealth Games title because she did run in Edinburgh with me in '86.
Out of all those competitions that you've won, which is the one that really sticks out for you every single time?
There's not one, because there's a certain few that are really important for certain reasons. So '86 was really important because I wasn't the favourite for the race. And I was, like, we had some Yvonne Murray and Tom McKean who were supposed to be gold medal opportunities for Scotland on the track and field. And both Yvonne and Tom ran under par, and my 10,000 metres was the last race of the games. So if I didn't win a gold, that was it done. No gold medal on the track for Scotland. So when I was sitting we stayed at the halls of residence, you know, the students' halls of residence. So I was sitting there, and my team manager, Hilary, came up to me, Hilary Everett, and she said to me, Liz, you're our last hope, and it's the last thing you need to hear because you're nervous enough about going out to compete. And I knew Yvonne was coming back, and I'm a good friend with Yvonne, and I was trying to do everything to avoid her seeing me as I was leaving because I didn't want any negativity. And I just felt like the weight of the world, like the weight of the nation was on me as I left because Hilda had said to me, you're our last opportunity. But I knew I was going to win it when I left because I was just so confident of the training that I did that I knew nobody in the field could beat me. But when you've never ran a championship like that there, and it's on home soil, so the whole stadium is pretty much full of Scottish people, it's amazing. And I think that they were all quite subdued when we started because it's 25 laps for one. So they're a bit subdued. And obviously, you know, everybody knows that, you know, Liz isn't favourite, so we're probably not going to get a gold medal here. But you could feel the tension building as the race went on because as it went after halfway, it was very clear I was running well. And then with about 8 laps to go, it was myself and Anne O'Dane, who was from New Zealand, who was the world record holder at the time. And it was obvious, you know, it was a silver or a gold. And then the last 4 laps, the noise was just unbelievable. They were just shouting my name. And I've never experienced, a girl from Whitfield, never experienced a stadium full of people shouting your name. And it was like it was like you're just on a crest of a wave. You could just hear noise. And then about 1,000 meters ago, I just couldn't contain myself any longer. And I was just like, I just need to go. And I went, and it was like a 2-lap victory lap, because I obviously broke the girl quite easily, and because I was running within myself. And I had such a gap that for 2 laps, it was the most amazing feeling that you'll ever get in your life. And then I won, and the stadium erupted. But not only that, in Meadowbank Stadium, there's an underground tunnel where they used to take all the medalists in the underground tunnel and used to wait there before you came up to your podium. And it had been pouring down the rain, and I thought to myself, nobody's going to stay for the medal presentation. And as I went into this tunnel, all you could hear was them saying, Liz McColgan, you know, sorry, Liz Lynch, because I was Liz Lynch and I wasn't married. And it was just an amazing feeling to think that all these people stayed and shared that moment with me. And it was the only time that I ever had my family there. It was the first race that my mum and dad had ever come to watch, ever. And I had an auntie there, I had brother, sister, it was amazing. And so I never ever got to experience that again, because even when I won my world title, I was on my own. You know, in a stadium of strangers. Yeah, there was British people there, but you know, it's when you have success, it means like tenfold when you share it with your loved ones, because that's what it's about, is sharing your success. That's what brings it home. And so it was like a beginning and the end. Although it was the Commonwealth Games, I never, ever, ever got that feeling ever again, to share it with family and friends that meant everything to you. So that was sort of, although it wasn't a really high championship to win, it was a very important one for me, for the feeling of the emotion of the event. Obviously, when you're world champion, fastest woman in the world, cannot beat that. So that was amazing. But then, like, London has its own special, when I won London Marathon, has its own special thing as well, because to be running down the mall on the streets of London on your own, nobody else there, and the streets are all lined with people again, banging on the sides and everything, that's an amazing feeling. And that's, I'm very, very honoured to say that, you know, I was one of these athletes that experienced running London Marathon, the whole streets on my own, and getting the accolade of the crowd and the excitement and the buzz of that as well. So that was really amazing, especially at the end of the marathon, because you're absolutely shot. You know, it's 26 miles, it's a long race.
You're competing against so many others, and it's a huge race.
Yeah.
How do you... what was it? Was the crowd just pulled you along, or was it just your trip? Because that's a long way to...
Yeah, the marathon's a really different one. It's a roller coaster ride, you know, your highs and lows. And I think it doesn't matter whether you're a social runner or an elite runner, everybody goes through a roller coaster of life through the marathon. It's like, why am I doing it? Oh, I feel great. Why am I here? I'm not going to finish. Oh, I feel magnificent. It's like that the whole way. But for me personally, I'm a really a mental athlete. I use a lot of visualization in my running and in my training. So when I'm running, I'm really a lot of visualizing. You know, I'm listening to my body, listening to my heart rate to relax myself. So I'm not aware of what's going on around me. I'm just listening to myself and talking to myself and mediating myself through the process of I'm up and down. So, you know, I try to maintain like a sort of an even contact with how my body's feeling and how I'm running. So it's a bit odd to say it, but that's kind of how I run it. So I'm not aware until the last 10K. That's when I'm waking up, you know, and I'm waking up and then my race starts. So that's kind of how I deal with the marathon. I've never hit the wall. I had an experience when I won London. I said to 𝗀𝗃𝗍𝗁, who was my mentor at the time. 𝗀𝗃𝗍𝗁 was one of the greatest Norwegian runners ever in the world. She won New York Marathon like 7 times, cross country about 5 times, the world cross country. And she led the world in as far as marathon running is in the early years, a woman. And she became my mentor. And I remember having a conversation with her saying, you know what, I've never hit the wall. And she says, right, when we go back to Gainesville, because we used to train in Gainesville, Florida, says we're going to go out and we're going to get you to hit that wall. Because, you know, I was always an athlete that likes to feel the emotions of, and then once you deal with it, you know what to do when you're racing. So I'd never dealt with it. So I was like, well, you know, when it happens, how do I deal with it? So we had this 5-mile loop, and she says, right, we'll run this 5-mile loop until you get, you know, hit the wall sort of thing. I didn't take any drinks. no gels, all that sort of stuff, nothing like that. I didn't do gels in that day anyway, but I did no nutrition while I was doing it. And we got to 25 miles and I ran through the marathon 26 miles in about 2:26, 2:27. So I was going at a decent pace and there was nothing there. So she said, do another lap. And I says, well, that's going to get me to 30 miles. And she says, just do it. So I did another lap and I got to 30 miles and there was still nothing. And I said, I'm not doing 35 miles. I says, I'm just not interested. I says, I just must not do it. And she goes, well, okay, we'll stop. But what we'll do is we'll go for a run at night. Well, when I went for a run at night, we tried the 5-mile run at night. I did have that stiffness and I knew how it was, but as we went on that run at night, it cleared. So I just have a genetic thing that I clear a lot of that lactic and, you know, lack of glycogen and that genetic, probably built for it, you know. So I was just lucky in that way that I burned fat at a very, very low rate, much, much lower than the normal person.
You must have, so you talked about the gels and nutrition, etc. How, obviously you're still involved in athletics, especially with your daughter.
Yeah.
But how have you seen that change over the years?
Well, I didn't run with any gels back then. You know, I just used to drink a thing called 𝗖𝘂𝗿𝘀𝗁, which was used in the African countries for the children when they had like diarrhea and things like that. Yeah, so it's a hydration drink. So that's kind of like all I used. I think that it's very much a money spinner. A lot of people don't need to use as much as what they do, and a lot of the athletes don't really necessarily experiment with what's good for them and what's bad for them. Some people can't digest those gels, you know, so, you know, sometimes fructose is better, and, you know, so there's a lot of good and bad about it, you know, but I always say to people that whenever they do a marathon, no matter who you are, you've got to practice and find what works for you, because just because it's written that you need 50 grams every, you know, 25 to 30 minutes, sometimes people don't need that, you know, so it's about working with what works for you and practicing, you know, practice.
Back then to now, would you have been a better athlete?
I would be, because of the technology in the shoes, obviously. Technology has changed, a game changer. Like what I was running and the world records that I ran can't be comparable now because of what's on their feet. Because it helps recovery. And also there's a lot of drug use as well. There was drug use back when I was running as well, but things have moved on to help recovery and things. So athletes are able to recover quicker than what I was back in the day.
With everything that you've gone through, did you encourage your daughter to go into running?
Of course, you know, I love running and I encourage everybody to do running no matter what level you're at. You know, I think it's really, really important for your mental and physical well-being, and running is one of the sports that helps everything. You know, when you run, you use every muscle in your body, so it's really, really productive to be healthy, both physically and mentally. And I think that, you know, everybody should get into running at some level. I think it's just a really, really good sport that everybody can do too. Like, you know, you don't need to join a club, you don't need to have the best shoes, you can just run out your door, you don't need to go to any facilities. So it's a great sport for everybody, and it's the basis of every sport, because running is, you know, like run, jump, throw, ABCs of athletics is every sport. So every child should be doing athletics before they even go into sport, or even learn the skill sets of sport. They should be doing athletics. And I'm a firm believer of that. And I think that, you know, it's so accessible. And it's not about, you know, needing to go into races and run marathons. It's about what you can do to make yourself fit and healthy, whether it's a walk, jog, and build it up and whatever. The benefits are amazing. And I'm a big advocate. Even today, I still coach and mentor people that are just social runners to elite runners to children. You know, I'm very involved in the development of athletics, track and field in Doha. You know, my job nowadays is, although I still coach at an elite level, director of sport and programs for the Qatar, I don't know if anybody hears, like, so part of the World Cup 2030 legacy was women in sport, to get more women involved at grassroots level. So Education City has been seconded back into from QF, and we are revamping the Education City football stadium into an elite academy of sport for women. It will be delivered by women for women. My job is to build grassroots levels for 5 key sports. So we have identified basketball, volleyball, fencing, tennis paddle is one as a racket sport, and track and field. And in my remit, what I am doing, I'm setting up after school programs for boys and girls. So we have qualified coaches going in and supporting the PE teachers to deliver good quality coaching ethos so that the skill sets of the games and the activities taught properly. And then from that, we talent ID girls from the age of 10 to 16, and we're setting up elite academies of sport. Within that elite academy of sport, for all 5 sports, we do mentorship, we do nutrition, we give them clothing, we give them shoes, and we have qualified coaches that are delivering programs. We are inviting them to do women-only competitions, and we invite teams to do women-only competitions, as well as providing camps for the girls to go on in a women's-only environment. We encourage safe spaces for women to actually participate in the sport. So from grassroots level all the way, we envisage that we will start getting more fitter Qatari girls to move forward to be playing at federation level. So it's like an age development hub from the age of 10 to 16 that works underneath the federations to support the federations to talent ID and develop the girls so that by the age of 16 they're in a really good place, fitness-wise, skill-wise, to actually go on to the next stage, which is to be senior players for Qatar national teams. But to get there, and the good thing about it, there's a new ruling that's come in that it's not only Qatari girls, but it's girls that are born in Qatar now that can now benefit from these programs, which is a wider base to pick from. So we're actually encouraging homegrown talent, which I think is really, really important.
I think it's amazing here. You've been here 13 years. 13 years. I've been here 16 years. And it continually amazes me what they're doing, especially in anything.
Yeah.
It's not just sports, it's education, it's health, it's just across the board. But you must have realised the weight of the on your shoulders that you were somebody that was going to be an ambassador, an inspiration to so many, which you were, by the way, because look at the way that sports in the UK actually went. And it was through people like you.
Yeah, I think when I went along as an athlete, I didn't really realise that people were actually inspired by me. But when I won the BBC Sports Personality of the Year, that was like a turning point for me, because it went from just being sport, if you know what I mean. It was the actual British nations voting for me as a sporting personality of the year, which I couldn't get my head around, because I was like, yeah, I'm an athlete. Why do people in the street know who I am? And I never thought that athletics was such a big sport, because football, rugby, you always get, a different persona from a football player as when you go to, like a crowd of people, they kind of know who they are, what they play, how many goals. In athletics, I wasn't as sure that athletics was that popular. So when I won that, it kind of made me step back and think, ooh, like people actually do know who I am, and they do understand what I've achieved, and they appreciate who I am and what I've achieved. So that was a big turning point to me in how I behave and how I thought I could change to make a difference. So from that, so when I got that award, it kind of made me want to be more involved with kids so that I could help kids that were in my position, because it was very, very difficult as a young kid to want to do something but be told you can't, just because of where you come from. So, I remember talking with my daughter 𝗚𝘂𝗲𝗁 when my daughter 𝗚𝘂𝗁 started becoming a world-class athlete. And, I'm really proud of 𝗚𝘂𝗁, not because she's my daughter and because she's an athlete, but she started a non-profit foundation, which, even from her own money, she puts her own money. So if she does an interview like this here, she would ask to be paid, but to be put into the foundation, not to her directly. And she gives part of her sponsorship kit deal to the foundation. And what it does is it pays for training nights for kids from disadvantaged areas. So when you go to a running track, you've got to pay, I don't know, it's £5.50. Kids on low income can't pay that. So she pays every Tuesday night for kids from poor backgrounds to go in and train on a running track. She also puts coaches into primary schools that couldn't afford to run programs, and she pays the coaches to go in and do after school activities with the children for track and field. So for me, that's more important than winning any medals. You know, it's inspiring the next generation. And for me personally here, I try to do that with the girls that I meet, is to try and inspire them to participate. It's not about winning a medal, it's about having the confidence to do something that you like to do. And although you're not very, very good at it, it doesn't mean to say you can't give it a go. So, you know, and I think inspiration's about that. It's not inspiring people to go and be an Olympic champion, because that comes few and far between. But it's inspiring people to get confidence, to think well of yourself, you know, to dream big, you know, and to just, you know, success is what you make it, and never be afraid to open those doors, you know. And I think that's kind of where I come from, more so than look at my shiny gold medals. You know, I never do that. You know, I like to get down to the kids' level and say, like, do you know what, if that's what you want to do it. You know, don't let anybody say you can't do it. And I think that's more of my inspirational story than anything else.
I see the lights. There's obviously lights in your eyes, but when you started talking about your daughter and what she's achieved and the things that she's doing also outside and helping other people, especially those people that are not as fortunate as others, that must be pretty rewarding for you.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing that I've got 5 kids. I've not just got 1 kid. I've got 5 amazing kids, and all my kids have got, you know, are amazing kids in their own way, in their own fields of life. But I could honestly say I've brought up 5 amazing kids. But 𝗚𝘂𝗲𝗁 is obviously following my footsteps. She is Commonwealth Games gold medalist. She took my record, so that's really unusual. It was amazing being there and seeing her win that. You know, she just took all my records apart from the marathon. She signed up for London Marathon, her debut this April, so I know that that's gone. That's not going to be an issue. And I'm proud to say that, you know, it's her that's taken my records. I don't care about my records being broken, because records are there to be broken. But I'm so proud it's my daughter that's doing it. It's crazy. You would never think that your child would follow in your footsteps and be more successful. It's amazing. So, but I just feel that with 𝗚𝘂𝗁, she's just got such a caring, like, she's 5'11". She's always been super, super skinny. And on Instagram and media, she always gets very negative comments. And women in the world do get a lot of negative comments, much more so than men, on their looks and what they do. And 𝗚𝘂𝗁 has been such a big advocate to help women stand up to those bullies. You know, she stands up and she says it, you know, she says it as it is, not rudely, but honestly. And she's made a difference to so many people. You know, I've even seen the comments of the people that, you know, that she's actually really, really helped. And to me, I'm more proud of the person that she is than the athlete that she is. And to me, that's like really heartwarming. If a mother can say how proud they are of their children as people, because that's what the world's about. It's not about what you win. It's about what you put into the world and what difference you make in the world. And you know, there's certain people lucky enough to be able to do that, and there's certain people that are lucky enough that don't do it well, but there are some people that do it well and their heart's in the right place, and I can say that about my daughter.
You've had an amazing career. You could be just living your life somewhere and just get it through. You're probably financially really stable. It's like it could have been just I've done my bit.
Yeah.
But you're...
No, I don't forget where I came from. I think that's the... Probably I should, but I don't. I'm very grounded. I know where I came from, and I know where I'm going when I'm no longer living. And that's really important to me. I think that there's no need to be this person that thinks they're better than everybody else just because you've got a couple of shiny medals. My path on life was, I believe, to work hard and show that through hard work and dedication, it doesn't matter what your pathway is, where you start, where you come from, that you can be successful. And once you're successful, you should give back. And I'm a really big believer in that. And yeah, you can say, you know, I don't need to worry about wealth and whatever, but you know what? I worry about health. I worry about the health of my friends. I worry about the health of the world. It's a crazy old world we're in, you know? And you know, and all I can do is try to be the best version of me within that crazy world, and that's what I hold on to. But I never ever forget where I come from, and I never ever forget being told that I wasn't good enough, because there are a lot of people even now in that same situation. I had a funny story last night. Age is a funny old thing, like, you know, because I'm 60 now and I'm getting old. And you don't really realise how old you are. And I was at coaching with the Creating Pathways programme last night. I had 32 girls on a running track that's enclosed just for girls so that they can do track and field. And one of the new girls come up to me and she said, "Miss, you're so mobile. My grandma can't stretch like you." And I thought that just hit home. I thought that's a great. I says, "Do I thank you?" And I said to her, "Thank you very much." I says, "I like to keep working on it." But, you know, everybody's impression of you is varied. And all I can say is that I am who I am, and I don't try to change who I am. I've accepted myself a long time ago, and I'm always who I am. No matter what I do in life, I'll always be who I am and be proud of who I am, where I came from, what my upbringing was. Yes, it wasn't perfect, but you know what? If I didn't have that upbringing, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And that's why I'm proud of who I am and where I come from and what I do.
Yes, you won all the gold medals, didn't you? But look at you now, you continually try to pay that back, even to Lily.
Yeah, I got a lot from what I did. I'm very, very fortunate, because there's a lot of people that work hard and for whatever reason don't make it. So, you know, I know that I've been one of the lucky ones. Although I've dedicated my life to athletics, I always will to the day I go to my grave, because I've got so much from my sport. Not even just from like winning races and the sort of monetary side of it. I've got a lot from my sport and well-being. And, you know, I still run today. My mind is still really active. You know, I love what I do. You know, I get up in the morning and I've got a smile on my face and I'm like, yep, I'm here for another day. And, you know, it's simple things like that. But for me, athletics has been a guiding light with all my problems. You know, I've had a very traumatic life. I really have. I've had a lot of struggles, but running has been the constant that's been my guiding light all the way through it. And because I've stayed strong to it, I've had a lot of success in all walks of life.
And so many people say about the running, when somebody embraces running, they seem to say exactly what you say about how it's been a great healer, it helps in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Let's go back to these people that's calling us a little bit old. Okay, with us, I'm still that young person.
Yeah.
I don't feel any different. Sometimes you glance yourself in the mirror and think, oh my words, yeah. And by the way, you look fantastic, so I'm going out for a run tonight. But I tell you honestly, I still feel as young as I was.
Yeah.
People say you've got so much energy.
A lot of people, like for me personally, I'm not scared of age. You know, I've lived a great life, and you know, I've got friends that have went and had facelifts, and I'm like, why? You know, like, just embrace your age. You know, why do you want to be someone that you're not? You know, so I'm happy in my skin, getting old and wrinkly. I am what I am, but you know, I've still got a lot of energy about me because I keep fit and healthy. You know, I eat well, I exercise well. You know, I look after myself, and I think it's really, really important that everybody looks after themselves, because we're only given one body. And that body you've got to look after. And if when you start getting ailments, it's because you haven't looked after it. So I'm a big advocate, even though you're getting older, you still exercise to what limits you can. You know, I went into the gym the other day, and you know, I was lifting, and this man came up to me, and I was lifting like a 30 kg weight, and he took the 30 kg weight off me, and I'm like, excuse me, you know, I'm lifting this, and he put it on my bar, and I was like, thank you very much, but I can manage, you know, I'm more than capable. And then I started lifting, and he says, oh yeah, you can lift weights. I said, thank you very much. You know, leave it there. So, you know, I think it's really, really important as an older person to exercise. And it doesn't need to be running. It can be whatever that is, but you need to be out walking. You need, you know, the weather just now in Doha is so good. You know, why you want to be indoors? You know, get out and do something, get active. And there's certain things you can do for activity. It doesn't have to be high. I don't do high intensity anymore. You know, I do it for my enjoyment. And, you know, I'm still in great shape. If I wanted to go and run a race tomorrow, I can if I want. I choose not to. And the reason I choose not to is because I would be running about 1.5 miles behind where I used to be as an athlete. And as an athlete, I was very time orientated. So to me, I'm like, frustrated, that I'm not the athlete that I was. So and not only that, I've been there and done it, and I did it as a professional sport. So it doesn't interest me to go racing now. I like helping people to do that and watching them. That's what I like to do. So.
Somebody they told me, they said, give my regards, Rosa from Media City.
Oh yeah, okay.
So the story was, she said, oh, we're going to meet this sort of time. I said, look, you're not going to know this person at all. But I cannot do that meeting because I'm interviewing Liz McColgan. And she was telling me about all the people that you're helping, especially the lady that does all those marathons.
Yeah, 𝗬𝗫𝗍𝗁 was the first Qatari and GCSE woman to achieve the 6-star majors. So I ran every one of those marathons with her. Yeah, she was the first Qatari lady and GCSE. So there's a few good ladies that have done it now, which is fantastic. We've got one lady, Rabah, who is chasing that now. So she's got about another 3 marathons left. So she's training for the marathons now. So yeah, she's inspired a lot of ladies to go after the 6 majors. And the 6 majors, I don't know if anybody knows about it. It's the 6 major city marathons. Yeah, and you get like a special medal, and there's a special wall of athletes that have done it. So yeah, I coached Rashid Al-Hajari, who was the first male to get the 6-star majors. So there's a lot of like guys and women in Doha that nobody really sees what they're doing or knows what they're doing, but they're doing pretty amazing things.
Amazing things.
Yeah.
I look at 𝗬𝗬𝗂𝗏.
Yeah.
I remember Marion Farrick, just to name a few, and it was like they're inspirations. I just sometimes wish that we would put them on a box and celebrate.
Yeah.
We've got to celebrate.
That's what I'm hoping to do in the stadium. When the stadium opens up, I'm trying to get the idea of having an historical sporting, like not a museum, but an activity where school kids can come in and learn about the history of sport in Qatari women, and it'll be like interactive. So like they can sort of learn what they did, how they did it. Like if 𝗪𝗂𝗍𝗁𝗁 climbed, a mountain, how high was that mountain, how long did it take her? So it's like more educational rather than just seeing a picture and saying, oh, she did this and this and this. So I'm kind of working on a project trying to get the funding to carry that through so that we have like a little area in the stadium that's dedicated to the Qatari women that have, started the process. Because it even goes back, a lot further than you think. Qatari women being, involved in sport. It's amazing.
100%, and the way that but also the way it's transformed over the years.
Yes.
I remember when I first came here, the way that they start to embrace this, and the way that things have gone onto the stage, it is phenomenal. Let's talk a little bit about Qatar. So, how have you found Qatar in your 13 years?
It's a lot different. There's a lot more activations for all sports, not just running per se, but it's just great to see the parks filled with people. We've got all these different groups all running and doing things. My only downside is there's an awful lot of unqualified people giving advice. Yes, and I would like to see some form of certification being brought in, because I'm a big believer that just because you've ran a marathon doesn't mean you say you can coach people to run a marathon, and just because what worked for you in a marathon doesn't mean you say you can advise what worked for you is good for someone else. You really need to be qualified in knowing what you do. And like gait analysis, it takes people to go to university for a good few years to get a gait analysis degree. So to go and do running analysis when you've not really did the degree, to me is a no. It's like me, going to a physio for toothache. I might be a professional in the medical field, but I really don't know what I do. So I think that, a lot of people really do need to look at, who they're going to for coaching and what certification they've got to coach. And I think that if that gets done, then there'll be a lot more holistic benefit for people. But it's actually great to see that there's so many people running. Like the Rio Marathon had 15,000 in it. It grew from 2,000 10 years ago. So that's a great thing. And there's more and more events coming, which is great, for people to participate in and get televised and things like that. So sport just now in Qatar is on the up.
Yeah. And it's not going to slow down.
Not at all. And I mean, it's good because like on the program that I work on, there's a lot of like older women that would love to have been involved in sport, that their children are getting involved in. But and you know, what I'm trying to do is get that sort of older bracket of person back into the sport as referees, umpires, officials for track and field. You know, there's still a place for them, even, you know, they're not actively able to do it. They can still come back and feed into, you know, like, and give back and build the sport. But for me, what's really exciting is, you know, the generation of girls that we've got now are going to be new mothers and the new future. And so when they're accepting that it's okay to do sport and it's vital that you do sport and be fit and healthy, their children are going to have a totally different ethos in sport, and that changes the whole nation then. You know, you're changing the whole nation from grassroots, from the beginning, and that has a wave where it's going to develop. And so I think in sort of 6 to 8 years from now, there'll be a lot better quality of athletes. There'll be a lot more people running and getting the benefits of sport, which is what you want to see. You want to see homegrown athletes. You want to see a buzz from like the parks where people are out there running and biking, and you know, and you're starting to see that process change.
I've got one question that I ask everybody. What message would you give a 15-year-old self?
A 15-year-old self, I think my main message is have the confidence to believe in yourself. Don't rely on others to believe in you. You know, believe in yourself and dream big. Don't contain yourself. You know, think outside the box, be that person, and just chase the dreams that you want to chase, because a lot of people box themselves in. And I think that it's really, really important to believe in yourself first. And, you know, once you believe in yourself, you can be whatever you want.
Your training facilities now, not too shabby. Education City Stadium?
Yeah, well, it starts to get revamped in 2026 and it opens in 2027. But what we've done is I've seconded a running track and I've put a big blue fence around it, so women are able to run in there without any man seeing them. And I think that's really, really important for the development of sport for women, especially, that we have safe spaces for women to train. And once we get safe spaces, and they actually start doing the activities, we then get the skill set better, and then we get the fitness level better, and then we move everything in a direction that allows those people, if they choose to go to a different level in sport and get fitter and better. And if they choose, you know, as they get to a stage where they can maybe play for national teams, if they choose to do that, great. If they choose not to do it, they still can do what they're doing and still get the benefits of sport. And that's what the beauty of sport is. It's participation and the benefits that you get as an athlete or a sportswoman or man. It's the benefits that you get out of it. It's not always about being an elite athlete and getting these gold medals or winning the football or scoring that winning goal. Yeah, it's great if you can get to that level and be that athlete that achieves that, but not everybody can. But we can all benefit in the same ways from what sport delivers.
You're magnificent, honestly. And I said it's a privilege. I have a special question because I saw you win that award, the TV Personality of the Year.
Yeah.
That was what we would all watch that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody would watch that. Did you ever think you were going to win?
No, you really don't know what the voting is. Back in those days anyway, you didn't know what the voting was. And, you know, you had like massive footballers like Alex Shearer, and you had like just, you know, huge football stars. And and football always won. It was either football, rugby, that would win it all the time. And so I got an invite and I refused to go because I was in training for a marathon. And then they phoned me up and they said, Liz, the way the voting's going, you know, you're in top 6, and says, if you were to win it, it would be really bad if you weren't there. And I says, no, I'm not going because I've got like this to do, I've got that to do. And then they phoned me back again and they said, the voting is going crazy here, he says, and it looks, you know, there's a lot of votes coming in, and he says, you're definitely going to be in the top. We don't know how it's going. We don't know if you're going to win it or whatever it says, but you're definitely going to be in the top. Could you come? Because it would look really bad if you're not there. And I said no. So about an hour later, there's a knock on my door. There was a guy that was like really popular with Les Lynham. I don't know if you remember him. He's like huge as a sports presenter. They got him to personally call me, and I said no to him as well. And then there was a knock on my door, and there was this little guy, and he was so nervous. And I'm like, who are you? And it was like 10:30 at night. And he says, who are you? And he says, Liz, if you don't come with me, I'm going to get fired. And I says, come with you where? And he says, you have to come on the plane to London. And I says, it's 10:30 at night. And he says, we've got the Royal Mail plane and it's waiting in Dundee. Could you please come? He says, I've been told I'm going to get fired if I don't bring you on the plane. So I'm standing there going, this is just ridiculous. So I grab a bag, I go with this little guy. We're on this like plane that flies the mail down to London. And I arrive at like midnight and I'm like, what the heck's going on here? So I just said to myself, right, I must be in the top 3, so I'll just go. And I didn't even like, normally you'll get your hair done and your makeup done and you'll have like, like 𝗬𝗄𝗄𝗃 or something on. None of that. I did my own hair, did my own makeup, and I'm just sitting there, no speech prepared or nothing. And then the third place got called, and then the second place got called, and I'm sitting there. They've wasted my time. I came all the way down from Dundee, and then when he called me as winner, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I had no speech, no nothing. And it just blew me away. It's probably the first time I've been speechless. And I had to go up and do a speech on the spur of the moment, which was probably rubbish. I can't even remember what I said. But it was just one of these moments that you never think happen in your life, because in the UK, that's big. That's a really big award to get. And it's live on BBC, and it's like, even still to this day, I don't understand why I won it. But to me, it was really important for me. It wasn't because I won it. What it meant to me was that athletics is being watched. Everybody knows what athletics is. And to me, that was the most important message.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank
You
pleasure.
are an absolute superstar. Good. I wish you the most biggest successes in the world.
Thank you. It's London in April, so that's exciting. But thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
It was wonderful. And
Can I just say too that if any young girl out there wants to come along and try athletics, we have Creating Pathways programme on a Monday and Wednesday at Pitch 2 at QAD, 5 to 6. Anyone can come along and give it a bash.
You've been a super guest.
Thank
you. So you guys, if you need any more messages from me, keep on saying, you've heard it from Liz today. Okay? Say some nice things to people. Encourage them, support them. You never know how their life's going to change. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Liz. It's been a pleasure. It's been
fun. Thank you.
Thank you.